Welcome to the Tag Talks podcast. Today I'm joined by good friend, tag athlete, and former teammate Luke Korol. How you doing, big guy?
Great, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Why don't you kind of start these guys off with position, where you're from, how long you've been training that tag for, and then kind of where you are currently, team, league, all that stuff.
So I'm a linebacker for the Hamilton Tiger Cats right now in the CFL. I'm from Dundas. I've kind of been bounced around through high schools and stuff. We'll get into that in a bit. But yeah.
Training that tag, how long you been training with me for?
I've been training with you since you started. So what is that, like three years now?
I don't know, man. It all just blends together. It's
All
I know is that I have fun, and it's been a couple years. Yeah, I think like we've been friends and teammates for a long time, but I think you started training with me right when I started at Guelph as the strength coach. So that would have been after my fifth year. Okay, so just to kind of get the ball rolling, we'll do the quick 6 questions. Favorite meal?
I'd have to go with steak and lobster.
Steak and lobster. I like it. Very white collar. Favorite exercise?
I'd have to go with bench.
Bench, okay. Least favorite exercise?
Glute ham raises.
Oh yeah. I
They're
mean,
the worst.
They're good
Especially
for
the
you.
holds that you have us doing right now.
Yeah, they're good for you, but they're not fun.
No.
If you could play any other sport or a different position, what would it be?
I'd play hockey.
Yeah,
hockey is my favorite sport, actually.
I figured. Okay, well, let's see if that's in line with this. Best sports movie of all time.
Miracle.
I figured after the last answer. And then I don't know if you have any, but like favorite podcasts, books, blogs, any of that kind of stuff.
I actually don't listen to a ton of podcasts, but if I do, it's Spit and Chicklets.
Spit and Chicklets. Okay, so you got a rep. That's Barstool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah, I don't honestly, I don't venture too far outside of my norms when it comes to podcasts. I normally just listen to training stuff. Okay.
Joe Rogan too, don't you?
Yeah, Joe Rogan, training stuff. Not too much entertainment on the podcasting front. I'm normally just trying to get some brain gains and learn new stuff. But okay, like you said, we're going to touch on it. So tell us a bit about your story. So when did you start playing football? What teams you play for? That kind of stuff.
Okay, I played a season. I think it was like Tyke when I was really young. I played one season and wasn't really into it because I was playing hockey at the time too. I tried a season of football. I wasn't a big fan when I was really young. And I didn't get back into football actually until grade 9. It was in high school at St. Mary's. It was the first high school I went to. And that's when I kind of picked football back up. Like I started in grade 9 at St. Mary's, and then I started playing summer football at Wentworth Panthers. I was growing up in Linden.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was our team out there. It was the Wentworth Panthers. And they're now like they joined with the Hamilton team. I forget what they're called.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just thinking about that too. I was like, man, I played summer football for 3 years and coached summer football for 5 years. I've never heard of the Wentworth Panthers.
Yeah, so. No one ever heard of us. We weren't the best, but yeah, they morphed and joined into Hamilton Hurricanes.
Oh, okay.
But so I played with Wentworth until it was grade 10 summer, and every year I'd played for them, we kept getting smacked by the Burlington Stampeders, like just cooked. Like it was like 70-0, and I was like, man, I want to play for that team. So I was actually living in like a gray area in Linden, like my rights or whatever, like where I was geographically placed, like didn't actually like I didn't have to go to a certain spot. I could actually go anywhere. So, and I found that out. So I tried out for the Burlington Stampeders in grade 10 summer, and the team was unreal. And it was like, I was so pumped to finally be like on like a good team, like trying out. And it was a tough team to make. And I was actually playing tight end.
Really?
I was starting at playing on tight end. And apparently, so yeah, Larry DeStanis, big dog.
Big dog.
He was one of the coaches there at the time. And I was like supposed to be cut. And it came down to like some scrimmage, and I had one pass, and it was like a flat route, and it was kind of thrown like out of bounds. But I came down with like a one-hander and kept it in bounds in the scrimmage, and Larry like saw that and was like, man, like this guy can actually play, because I didn't get like many reps in the scrimmage. I just kind of had to make the most of them. But yeah, I came down with this unreal grab and like, man, like this kid can play. Like we'll see what he can do. So I made the team actually after that one catch, which is kind of crazy because that's like what started everything for me for football. Like if I didn't make that team, I don't know what would have happened. Like I never would have switched schools, and we'll get into that in a sec. But yeah, I made that catch. I ended up making the Burlington Stampeders. There was a family on that team that was like, hey, like you should come play for our high school, because like I started doing pretty good that season. And yeah, again with the gray area, I didn't actually belong to like any high school, so I could go to any high school. But to make things like less complicated, they actually were willing to like billet me. So I ended up going to live with a family that next year in grade 11 in Burlington. So I lived at this family's house so I could play at Corpus Christi in Burlington. And that's how I ended up switching high schools to Burlington. And Corpus Christi was like, I think they're like a top 5 team in Canada at that point. Like, so.
Yeah. I mean, like I first knew of Corpus Christi like when I was in high school, just because you guys had dope unis. I was
yeah, the Longhorns.
Yeah, man. I used to think the Texas Longhorns unis were pretty sick, and then I remember I saw you guys repping that, and I'm like, man, that is dope. So obviously, like a little bit of a theme of being a nomad, not really having any set place to go. So that kind of gave you the freedom to kind of go in and kind of adventure out and try some different things by making that move from Wentworth to Burlington and going from St. Mary's to Corpus Christi. Was that was purely just you trying to put yourself on the radar a little bit more moving forward, trying to compete at a higher level? Like what was kind of the driving force behind that, or just sick and tired of losing?
I was sick of losing. Again, like I had a lot of friends at St. Mary's, so I can't like harp the team too much, because I did have a lot of fun playing with those guys. Like we made some good friendships, but it came down to the point where it depended on the game that we were playing. So like we were playing like STM or something, or like one of the big schools, then there would be recruiters there, most likely looking at the other team, but hoping you'd shine enough for them to see you. And I just wanted, like, because I had talked to, when I was at Burlington Stampeders and stuff, there was always like scouts there, and then a bunch of the parents like, there's always scouts at our games, and it was kind of like, hey, I want to get noticed here. And I'm not like trying to toot my own horn, but it's like at St. Mary's, I was like the guy. I was playing running back and linebacker at St. Mary's, just trying to do it all. But I wanted to go to a team where it was just like a very good team. And yeah, so when I went to Burlington, that kind of changed for me. It was like all the scouts were there. There was a ton of good players on our team already that were already being scouted. So scouts were there, like watching them all the time. And so like kind of building my way up there, I ended up starting to get noticed being there. So that was like a big change for me, and it did help me get noticed. And yes, I kind of had to make that move on my own if I wanted to move forward.
Yeah, definitely. And like the recruiting landscape in Canada is a little unique. Like, I grew up just south of London. I played, there's 2 football clubs in London. There was, at the time, they were called the London Falcons, and then there was the Forest City Thunderbirds. And I lived just outside of London, so I went and played for the Forest City Thunderbirds. And like you said, when you're playing for those teams that are getting walloped like 70-0 every game, like scouts aren't really coming to watch you play. And so a lot of the times, playing Forest City Thunderbirds and playing high school football in the country, like I didn't have exposure to a lot of opportunities for getting seen by scouts. And that was the one thing that I always loved as a player growing up, was playing against Burlington. Cause I was like, yo, I know we're going to get our asses kicked, but I know there's going to be scouts in the stands. And like, the first time I actually had scouts approach me was after a super embarrassing loss to the Stampeders at Nelson. It was week 1. Oh my God, dude. I don't even know what the score was. We lost by like definitely 70 points for sure. But that was the first time that, you know, a couple scouts came up to me after the game and wanted to talk. And so, you know, based on where you're at, like, I think if I was in a similar situation where I kind of had the freedom to choose, like I would have done the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of, when you're coming from those maybe less recognized areas for football talent, you kind of have to go that extra mile to put yourself on the radar. And for you, that was switching high schools, switching what club team you're playing for. For me, it was, you know, really trying to explore playing Team Ontario, doing the Golden Horseshoe All-Star games, like any camp or All-Star team that I could go and try out for. And fortunately, I was lucky enough to make those teams. But, you know, that was what I used to put myself on the radar. You know, so you said you played football when you were young, then in grade 9 at St. Mary's, you picked it back up. Like, when did you in your own head decide that playing university football was going to be something that you were trying to do?
Like I said earlier, I love hockey. Like, so I was playing hockey at the time, but I actually, there's a couple of guys on my high school team that I was playing hockey with that are in the show now, but I was just nowhere close to them. Like, not even. We went to the high school championship for hockey, and I didn't get one shift. We ended up winning, but I didn't get one shift. I didn't even touch the ice. I was on the bench, and it was at that time that I was doing well at football. I was trying to do both sports. I was doing well at football, and I kind of realized, I was like, man, like, hockey is not for me. Like, I'm just not a great. I was a good hockey player, but I wasn't great. Like, I wasn't gonna go play somewhere in university. I wasn't gonna like make it that far. But football, I saw an opportunity, and I had like a big football family. Like, both my brothers played football, and I was decent enough at it where I was like, I could actually make something of this. And university football, we used to go watch. Me and my dad, growing up, like, we go to MAC games and stuff. And it just always interested me. Like, I loved football. I was just more into hockey, but football was definitely where my skill set was a lot better. So and started to move towards that.
You're preaching to the choir too. Like, hockey was my first love. I think I started playing hockey when I was like 3 or 4, and I didn't play football until high school. But yeah, very quickly I realized, you know, football was going to be my better option. I think that the highest I could have achieved in the hockey world was being a junior D beauty. And I probably would have got there by being the scrapper or somebody that was essentially a hired hitman.
The big blue guy in the locker room.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I made the right choice for myself, and I'm pretty sure you did too. So, you know, I said Team Ontario, some all-star things. Those are some things that I did. I know you yourself, you played for a couple of those kind of teams as well. So kind of talk us through that. What teams were you playing for on like the provincial and national level? What kind of experiences did you have there?
So I played the GHR Rising All-Stars. And then I played like GHR All-Star. There's like the 2 levels, like younger guys.
I don't even know if
for a couple of years, I think.
I don't even know if they still do that.
I'm not too sure. I think I did that for 2 or 3 years. I did that. And it was around the same time. It was like the next year that I played the Team Ontario International Cup. So
that's down in Texas.
Team Ontario together. Yeah, and we went down to Texas, played Team USA in like a scrimmage, and then an actual game. It was actually a lot of fun. The scrimmage, it was hilarious. We had gone. I was on that team with like Nick Thunn, Nick Parasoto. But yeah, we had gone down there, and we tied them in the scrimmage, 14-14. And our buses were beside each other as we were leaving the stadium. Not to mention these stadiums were insane down there. Like,
were you guys just at high school stadiums, or where were you playing?
We were at a high school stadium, but it looked like bigger than a university stadium. Like, it was insane. But yeah, our buses were beside each other as we were leaving the stadium, and we got into our bus, and we were all like, "Let's go!" Like, all pumped up. And we look at their bus, and the lights are on. It's at nighttime, so you can see everyone in the bus. And the coach is at the front of the bus, and they're all like straight faced looking at him, and he's reaming them out. Like, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we played the actual game. James Roberts is the quarterback on the team too.
Shout out, James.
Shout out. And but yeah, we went to the actual game, and we were up 14-0 on them at half, and we were like losing our minds. It was like Team Ontario versus Team USA. And then they clearly got reamed out because we didn't score a point from there on out, and we got crushed like 30 something.
Yeah.
14,
Were there like any memorable guys on that USA team that went on to play in like the NFL at all? Like any that come off the top of your head?
Honestly, no. I can't.
I was just gonna say no
names.
one's gonna fact check you, so just lie through your teeth.
No.
Just
No.
starting quarterback was Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
AJ Green was on that team.
Yeah.
I shot the shit with Aaron Donald after he was a really cool dude. Like, yeah, you just people aren't gonna fact check you, man. They're just gonna take it for what you say. So, did you ever play?
Yeah, there was like it was kind of cool. Their running back. I remember he was number 12. I can't remember his name, but he was their running back at the time, and he was insane. And then when they came out at halftime, they started running Wildcat with him, and that's when it just went south because he was by far the best player on the team. And he just did everything for them. And then the next day was their selection day. So like they was on ESPN, and we're all sitting in our hotel rooms watching these guys that we just played there on ESPN, like choosing their hats and where to go. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he went to like
the
Michigan.
Food court with Taco Bell and your Guelph Griffin I'm in hat, being like, this is cool too. This is cool too.
Honestly.
Did you ever play Canada Cup?
No. The 1 year that I was gonna play Canada Cup, I actually broke my leg.
Oh Jesus!
When I was playing for the Stamps, it was that year that the Canada Cup was coming around. Tryouts were coming up.
So that would have been.
And I broke my fibula.
Was that grade 11 going into 12 that summer? Would that have been the year?
It would have been grade 11, yeah.
Yeah. So
because I missed the next season.
Did you miss your whole high school year that fall?
No, I missed the summer. I missed the summer season.
Okay, but you're ready to go come fall.
Yeah, I just made it actually. That was pretty funny. I just gone through all my rehab. I ended up getting like a plate and 5 screws in my leg.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming into season, I had to get, there's this one screw that like connects my fib to my tib. So I had to get that screw out. And 2 weeks before training camp for high school, I went to go have surgery to get that screw out. So I had surgery like 2 weeks before training camp, and then I was out 2 weeks later playing.
It's awesome.
But it wasn't like a crazy surgery. They were just taking a screw out, but it was still like, I just made the season. Like I just got everything done with and just made season.
That's wicked. So that was going into your grade 12 year. Did you go back for another year of high school?
Yeah, I did a grade 13.
So what was that decision-making process like for you? Like, I know you were quite the player at that point and pretty highly regarded. You probably had some schools interested in you coming out of grade 12. What was the decision to go back to high school for another year?
Man, it was so tough. I remember I was so close. I don't know if I can say this, but well, I was so close to committing to Carleton. Like,
oh, you can say whatever you want, man. There's no rules, I don't think, on here.
Man, like I'd gone on so the 2 schools that were talking to me at a grade 12, I actually didn't have many. It was only 2. It was Queens and Carleton. And that had been a lot through Ryan McManus because he was with Queens.
He was at Queens and then he went to Carleton.
Yeah,
so tried to bring all his recruits over. Kind of.
Yeah. And so when he went to Carleton, I had gone on a visit there, and they were just that would have been their season that they had just come out.
Their first year,
yeah. It was like a really good opportunity to like play for a good position on that team because they were just starting fresh. Like they didn't have any vets. It was also like you're starstruck when you go on your first university visit when you're in grade 12 and you get a sense of like being away from home, like partying at university, like you had a good time. And I was just like, man, I want to go to university next year. Like I want to go. So I got back from that recruiting visit. Like if things work out, like I'm going to commit to this place. And then it took one of my coaches to like sit me down and a couple guys that were in university already that I had reached out to just to be like, hey, like help me through this recruiting process. Like, let me know what the best bet is here. Like, I want to do this, but do you think I should feel out other schools? Like, because I only had 2 schools talking to me at this time, and I didn't really see other schools. And the same response I got from every single coach and every player was do all of your visits. And that was the best advice that I'd ever gotten. Because that first one you go to and it's the first taste of being away from home, you're just like, I want to go. Like, I'm going.
Yeah, you're starstruck.
And
like you said, right? You're just like, the whole experience is just like the vibe of the campus. Like, I remember my first visit, you literally can't help it. You're like buzzing internally and you're smiling ear to ear the whole time. You're like floating around campus. You're like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. But meanwhile, it's because it's new, right? Like, you've never been in that. You've never gone on a trip where there's like, I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but there's literally grown men trying to, like, you know, sell you on their program. So everything is about you. Everything's about making you feel like you're the star of the show.
They make you feel like an absolute all-star.
Yeah.
And they know exactly what they're doing. Like, it's their job and they're
pros.
To do it, but
they're pros. And
100%.
that's literally, you know, how part of how they put food on the table for their families is by getting kids like us to commit to play for their program and listen to them. So I think that's like, that was I didn't have as many opportunities to go on as many visits as maybe you or some other guys, but that's one thing that I've always, you know, kind of said to people that are coming out and ask me for advice. It's like, man, engage in every conversation with any coach that wants to talk to you, because like, at the end of the day, it is about coaching. The decision is about coaching. You're going to go to a school and you're going to have to work with those coaches and whoever your teammates are for the next like 4 to 5 years. So like, get to know those people, have those conversations, go on every single trip that you can. And when you're on trips, like, ask, hey, can I go talk to a 3rd-year linebacker? Like, if you're a linebacker, be like, can I go talk to a 3rd year? Or, hey, who's that guy in the locker room over there? Can I go chat with him for a minute or whatever? And most recruiters are pretty good at trying to get that, but like, man, just be annoying. Ask as many questions as possible and take every opportunity that comes your way. 'Cause you never know, right? Like, there's one thing about a school that might just, you weren't really considering it, but you go on your visit, you have a conversation, you see a certain thing and you're like, oh my God, like, this is exactly what I want.
Oh yeah. I went into my grade 13 year, and by the end of that year, I had almost all schools talking to me. I didn't go on every single visit because I just knew like some schools that I wasn't going to go to, and I didn't want to waste the time with going on a visit. But I had I had like 5 that I was really considering, and I'd gone on all my visits. But even with talking to some of the recruiters, I find if you talk to every school and give them like the time of day to like have that conversation about recruiting with you, you start to realize who's like genuine in their recruiting and who's just giving you the exact same spiel or like the exact same text message that they just sent to like 50 other guys.
Yeah.
And that also helps you like really narrow down where you want to go. So that I've found, I'm not going to name the other schools that I was considering. It's not a big deal, but the one school that obviously just struck home, it was Guelph. Like I loved it. Like, I created such a good relationship with the coaches that recruited me, like K-Mac and Grandy at the time. And it was like, it was an unreal experience. And I remember going to Guelph, and I'd gone on all my other visits. Obviously you have like a great time there, but I remember going to Guelph, waking up the next morning. Normally you're not in like the best shape after a recruiting trip, waking up the next morning, but I woke up and I was like, I don't want to leave this place.
Yeah.
Like, I want to stay here. And that was after seeing other schools. And I just realized, I was like, man, like, this is the place I want to go.
Yeah.
And there was no doubt about it. I was like, I want to stay here full time. Like, I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, when coaches always ask, like, when we be in the locker room, like, oh, come tell us, recruit, like, what made you stay here? I'm like, honestly, like, I would tell them, like, it was like the family aspect and everything, and it was. But it was like, it just hits you, and you're just like, yo, I don't want to leave this place. Like, this is going to be the spot for me.
And that's like, I think a lot of the times, like, a lot of the, you know, the recruits that walk through the locker room and their families that walk through the locker rooms over the years, while we were at Guelph, and like, coaches or parents or players would ask us those questions, and it probably to them felt like we were just feeding them BS because all of us essentially had the same answer. You know, it's the culture of the team, it's the guys, it's the coaches, it's the environment. But is the honest truth, like on the to the outside world, everyone thought, you know, Guelph, all us Guelph players were there because we wanted like the jerseys or whatever stupid thing that they're like. I can tell you from being inside those walls, and I know you can attest to this, like none of us gave a shit about that stuff.
Oh man.
We were there because when we came on a recruiting trip, you found a bunch of dudes that were thinking about this the same way as you. There's guys that are like, man, we don't care who you are, where you come from, what you're about. As long as if you're going to come in here and help us win, we'll accept you. We'll bring you in. We'll treat you like gold. You'll be part of our little clique here that we're trying to, you know, build. But like it was just the right type of people. That was the people that were going to resonate and want to come and join what we were doing over there. So,
man, and the thing that speaks for that the most for me was I'd come in and I built like a good relationship with you and Newt, like right off the bat. Like we were shooting the shit like after workouts, like on my first year coming in. And not to mention after my first year, when all of us went to Cuba together, and I'm a rookie going with like third and fourth years,
yeah.
And but it wasn't like that. Like it was just like boys, and I found like a lot of teams had those cliques because like vets wouldn't talk to rookies and stuff. But again, like we're not making that up when we said it's a family atmosphere. Like that was the thing. Like you went in there, you were part of that team.
Yeah, there wasn't
it wasn't even because of the jerseys. Like there's obviously a select couple guys that love like the swag and everything, but half of us were like, I don't give a like what uniform we put on. Like
yeah, the kids that came there for jerseys or for some sort of like illusion that they were gonna, you know, get this like 5-star treatment or whatever, those are the kids that quit after one season.
Yeah, they didn't last long.
And those were the kids that I fucking applauded when they walked out of the locker room, because it's like, yo, you're it's people like you that are holding us back. So like,
honestly,
you know, you're a nice person. I don't think any differently of you as a person, but get the fuck out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can't, when we're trying to win and you have those like those performance-based goals that are pretty lofty, like the ones that we had. You have to have everyone 100% committed, because if you're not committed, you're in the way and you're part of the problem. And that's just where I think what we did as a team, like we had that ability to really separate the people from like the performance, because I know you had a good friend who quit the team and you guys remained good friends. One of my best friends, a roommate for 5 years, he quit the football team after the first season. Like the second season one was done, he was like, yo, you know, this isn't for me. I'm not that committed. I don't want to hold people back. Like, I know there's people that care more about this than I do, and I don't want to hold anyone back. It's like, dude, I have all the respect in the world for you, because you could have just, you know, been half in and showed up and gone through the motions, and you had the, like, I don't know, the social intelligence or whatever to understand that by you being half in and sticking around, you were gonna affect all of us negatively. So
for sure,
still to this day, one of my best friends, but quit football after one season. Like,
that's why I hated when people would try and like alienate themselves from the team once they quit because they were embarrassed. And I get why you feel embarrassed, but like I talked, like we always talked about this. Like I could care less.
Yeah,
like it
exactly.
doesn't mean like it doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it's not for everyone. Like it's very demanding on time, especially when you're trying to manage schoolwork and you're not getting out of meetings till 9 p.m. and you got to do SAM hours and all that stuff. Like it's tough. It's not for everyone, but
yeah, mentally and physically, it's tough, right? And the one thing that I always tried to say to people, because, you know, as time went on, you know, as like maybe one of the vets or leaders in the locker room, and maybe some younger guys would be quitting or be on the fence, and they'd want to come and talk to you. And that was always one of the things, you know, someone would come and talk to me and they'd say, hey man, you know, like, I really love being on the team. I really love the guys, but I just don't know if I'm not committed anymore. I'm thinking about, you know, quitting, but I don't want to be like ostracized and like have all the boys like hate me or whatever. And it's like, listen, I can't put it any more simply than this. I know you because of football. I don't like you because of football. I like you because of the person you are and like who you are. Now, I know you and I met you and our paths crossed because of football, but it ends there. Other than that,
Mhm.
football has nothing to do with who I think you are as a person. There's probably people that are phenomenal football players that I think are pieces of shit.
That I despise.
I think you're a piece of shit and I don't like you. Your skill set as a
Honestly.
football player has nothing to do with your value as a person or how I feel about you. And that
Mhm.
was like, I think when you could have people really understand that, that was what really helped them, because they're just like, oh yeah, like I'm so much more than just a football player, and I'm making this decision because that's what's best for me, and people will understand that, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, like you said, if you weren't in, we kind of wanted you out.
Oh, for sure. It's not. It's like what it comes out. It's not for everyone.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
you come into Guelph as a bright-eyed bull as a rookie. That was awesome for me. I think so.
Oh, that's funny.
That would be your first year. Was my third year. So, like you said,
Mhm.
Kurt and I kind of took you under our wings a little bit, and you came and hung out with the boys lots. But walk us
For
through kind
sure.
of that experience. You were dressing your first year. Kind of walk us through that, and tell us a bit about your career and some of the ups and downs and successes and failures of Luke Korol as a Guelph.
Um, Coming in my first year, chubby little Luke. Uh,
Maybe not
I
so
don't know.
little.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was that was probably the biggest you
Definitely
ever
not like,
were.
yeah. Like, I think my max that I reached in uni was like, I was close to 240.
Yeah, I was gonna say high
Like,
230s for sure.
um, but it was a bad 240. Not good.
Yeah.
But no, coming in my first year, it was tough, man. Like, it's as much as everyone tells you it's going to be tough, and you're like, oh yeah, it's going to be. Like, you realize, like, going from being the guy in high school and stuff, like, because you make all the plays in high school, like, you don't make reads, like, you just follow the ball and make plays. But you come to uni and it's like, boom, playbook, and you have to know it or else you get yelled at. And there's it's a reality check when you get into camp and you look at a depth chart and you're like fourth on the way
Yeah.
down, and you're like, oh man, like, I gotta pass this guy, this guy, this guy.
To
It's a
be the
lot.
backup, I got to pass 7 guys just to be second string. Like, what the hell's
Honestly,
going on?
I was fortunate enough in my first year that I got to dress every game but 2 games that year. And but it was just tough to, like, when you were in those games, get minimal reps. And because even on special teams, it was only like I was on a couple special teams, like one or two maybe, and then backups on other special teams. So it was like it was a backup to a backup to backup, and like it's a reality check when you get there. But
And in
it's
that
just it's
scenario
such a
too,
process.
I was just gonna say, in that scenario too, it's so funny. Like when you're like a first year dresser or something like that, and you're like third string on punt and punt return, like
Yeah.
you still don't really even know why you're dressing, because
No.
and you're just kind of walking up and down the sidelines, seeing the two guys that are ahead of you on punt team. You're like, hey, you need a break, man? Oh, dude,
Yeah.
you're looking
Yeah.
super tired. You want to blow on that next punt? Like, I'm
Honestly.
ready, man. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like
Honestly.
that warm up we
And
did
I
two
remember
hours
one
ago,
game.
still ready.
Yeah. I remember one game in Windsor. I'd just come back from, I had strep. Then the next week I'd come back and I was off all my specials because it wasn't allowed around the team for that week. And I came back the next week. I literally got taken off everything. And I went up to the coach and I was like, hey, like, I'm back this week. And he goes, yeah, we know. All right, I'll be right here.
Yeah.
But I ended up dressing and I was like, okay, sweet for Wednesday. And I didn't get on the field. Like, I didn't even touch the field. And I was in my full gear, standing there, ripping the bike every 5 minutes, like trying to stay warm if anyone got injured. I remember the one time someone didn't show up for kickoff, so I ran onto the field. And then I was just about there. I was almost there for my one rep. And my brother actually flew in from Edmonton. He was home for the weekend, so they came to the game because they heard I was dressing. And I finally get out there, and then the guy comes out late, and he took me off the field. I didn't get a rep, but it was tough. Like, but it's I don't know. It's a process. It happens to almost everyone, and I was just lucky enough to even dress on my first year. And you just gotta take, like, notes, like mental reps as you're there, and like just learning from the guys ahead of you. And honestly, I wish in my first year that I took more of that time that I had to like learn the playbook. I know not a lot of people do it because you're like, oh, I'm not playing right now. Like I don't need to know it that well as those guys do. But man, if I took that time to actually like learn it then, I would have just been so much more ready for when I started in my third
Yeah.
year. Like that, I went into my second year and I ended up, I think I dressed on and played on every specials in second year because you kind of just make it through your first year and make an impression. But yeah, then going into like third year, I finally ended up starting, and I wish I just took those 2 years to like take more time to like understand the playbook and understand football. So when I got there, I was just like already there.
Yeah, I think like, I mean, obviously hindsight is a bitch, and everyone that looks back always kind of says that they should have done things different. But I mean, in your scenario of like, there's just so many things that are going on, and
For sure.
it's so like even if you spent that much time learning your playbook, you're just so raw from like a football intelligence standpoint in first year. Like you can't even comprehend it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount of times, like when I was in my first year and I was on scout, like I wasn't even dressing. And it was then like, that was an experience. That was
Yeah.
a lot of fun. But like I would, I was so pissed because I really wanted to dress. And so, a lot of
Sure.
guys a lot of guys would, oh, guys that were on scout or whatever on Friday nights, they'd be like, oh, the rest of the, like all the dressers are, in their rooms or chilling at home. We're going out, we're going to get messed up. And I never did that because I thought, you guys are looking at it as a reward of like, oh, I'm not dressing tomorrow, so I get to go out on Friday night. And it's like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want that reward. Like, I don't ever in my life want to be the guy who gets to go out on Friday nights ever again. I want to be
Yeah.
the guy who's getting up early Saturday morning to go play. So I used to sit at home on Friday nights for the most part by myself and study the playbook. Even though I was on scout, I wasn't even playing. And I had no idea. Like, it didn't matter how many hours I put into that playbook. Shit didn't make sense. It made no sense.
Yeah.
I was
It's
just so,
mental.
you're
It's
just so
mental.
raw. Like, you come from high school, like you said, where you're the guy, and then like, you don't make reads, you don't really know what defensive system you're playing in, you don't really understand the role that you play in that system. And so then you
Yeah.
go to university and it's just like this whole level of football that you never knew existed. And like, you start to actually learn the intricacies of the defense and how it actually is a system, and how each piece in the system has a specific responsibility, and how all those people have to do their jobs together for the thing to work. And then you're
Yeah.
like, your mind just blows because you're like, man, like, I thought we were playing checkers, but this is chess. Like, there's so much
Yeah.
going on here. And so I think, like, yeah, honestly, like for most guys going into their first year, like, yeah, put in the time and try and study your playbook. But there's just certain things that it doesn't matter how much time or effort you put into it, it's probably not going to make sense. Like, just be around the vets in your first year, ask questions, and try and emulate what the older guys are doing, and just keep your nose above water. Like, there's so
Mm-hmm.
many things going around when you're in first year that you're just not going to be able to figure out because of lack of like experience and exposure at that level. So just lean on your vets and keep your nose above water, and just show those guys that you deserve to be there. Because if you can earn the respect of the vets around you, they'll bring you along and they'll teach you. And I think that's, looking back,
I
that's one
think,
thing that you did really well when you came in is, yeah, you might not have known all the things or whatever, but you always showed that eagerness and you always had that desire to learn, and you're always asking questions. And that's kind of why, you had the success that you had, because, maybe the older guys kind of helped bring you along a lot quicker because we knew how committed you were.
yeah, I think that's why I'm saying the playbook thing is because being in like first and second year when you would be in practice and you'd finally get those reps, and it was like if you screwed up those like maybe 2-3 reps that you get in practice, I think the biggest thing that affected me was like letting you guys down. Like you'd see me screw up and you'd be like, okay, if this guy gets into a game, we don't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the biggest thing where I was like, I wish I know my playbook more. But I found once I got to my third year, when we were doing walkthroughs, That's when you learn the most, is when you're actually like on one, you're out there, you're talking through scenarios, and it's like you're actually doing the rep, and
Yeah.
you remember it's so much easier as opposed to like standing on the goal line and just watching people do it because you're not that dialed in. But yeah, that was the biggest thing. It was like first and second year, if I go out there and I'd screw up a rep and like you get yelled at by a coach, it's just doing his job. But it was like letting you guys down, and then you guys just being like, hey, this guy, we can't trust him in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what gets me. I'd be like, man, like I need to know. But it's tough. Like everyone feels that. Like everyone goes through that. That's not.
Well, and that just happens.
That, and I realize that as I keep going years and years, like you make that guy feel bad for it almost because you want them to start learning, but you know that it's completely normal for.
Oh yeah.
Like I did the exact same thing. Like.
Yep.
I'm sure you did too. Like.
For sure, man. There's exactly, and that's just the life cycle of it. That's just how things work, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of go through the confusion and the I don't know, the grayness of first and second year where you're not the guy, but you're involved in the equation and you're playing special teams and that stuff. And then third year comes along, your number gets called, you're finally a starter, playing alongside yours truly there. That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun.
I wish I was able to bring a bit more of myself to that season. I was still pretty physically fucked up from the year before, still playing with a cast.
You were banged up.
My foot was still a little broken from the year before. My fourth and fifth year, man, that was a lot of fun, but goddamn, my body was not feeling it. But so your first season as a starter, what was that experience like? You know, third, fourth, and fifth year. You were starting there. So how were those experiences? How was that? And how do you think that first and second year kind of fueled your success later on?
It was amazing. Like it was finally like I finally got to get out there and just show that like I can play defense. You know what I mean? Like as much as like I love specials and I have such an appreciation for specials now, like especially being where I am. But like just being able to like go out there and finally play defense and like play every snap and get into a game like a lot was so exciting, and I was so pumped up to be like playing with you and Baines. Like we had such a good time out there. I think I had a pretty decent year like coming out. My first year starting, some big shoes to fill for old Newts there, but I felt like I held my ground. I felt like I had a good season. It was a lot of fun. Like we obviously struggled a bit, our team. Like we were battling for dubs that year.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It was great. Like it was finally nice to just go out there and show that you can play, and it was a good time.
Yeah, and like you said, it's when people that haven't been through it probably won't be able to understand maybe what I'm about to say, but it's like you finally get to play a game again, right? When you're just on specials, like, and even in the Canadian game, like if you start on every special teams, you're on the field like
a lot.
It feels like every 30 seconds because that's just how the Canadian game works, right? Like there's just so much special teams, but there's that, like, I don't know how to really describe it, but you feel,
man, it's like three different games within a game. There's like defense, there's offense, and there's specials. Like when you strictly play specials, it feels like you're playing like it's a different football game.
Yeah.
When you're playing defense, it feels like it's a different football game. I didn't play much offense ever, but it's a different football game from that viewpoint. So like playing specials and then going to play defense, it's just a whole other concept of like what's going on. Like there's no.
Yeah, and you just feel like you're part of that bigger picture now, right? Because you know even when you're starting on defense, you're still playing on some or all specials. So now it's just like you just, I don't know, you're immersed in the game in a different way, and you're I don't know, involved in the outcomes a little bit more, and it's, I don't know, it's just like you go through. You know, probably in high school, you're probably the same as me, where you just never came off the field. You played every specials. You started on offense. You started on defense. So you do that for 4 or 5 years, and you're like, it's awesome. And then you go to first year and you get 12 reps a game, or maybe not even. And then you do that for 1 or 2 years or whatever. And then all of a sudden you get to get back on the field, back on defense, and you're just like, holy man, like it's been a couple years since I've been in
Yeah.
this position where I'm just on the field playing defense every rep. And I don't know, like you said, it's like, I don't think people really understand it unless they've been through it, but to get back on the field and line up at that linebacker position for the first snap of the game again is just like,
That just feels
it's one of
good.
those things, like you never realized how good it was until it's gone. Like,
Yeah.
man, just
Honestly.
lining up and being like, this is the first play of the game. Like, let's start off with,
Yeah.
oh man, like the
And just
jitters and the
getting in more
excitement.
of a rhythm. You get into a rhythm with it. It's nice for
Yeah.
sure. But
So
it was a lot to take in. Like I remember my first couple games, I always like come out so jittery. Like yeah, bright-eyed bull. But I'd come out so jittery, but it was like I just had to like calm myself down. Like I almost forgot like how to. Sorry, Bentley sneezing all over the place. I'd almost like forgot like how to play football. It was like defense. It was like you have to like just calm yourself down and start making your reads, like all your stuff that you practice, but you pick it up quick. But I remember those first couple games, it was a lot to like learn the pace of the game.
mm-hmm.
And I'd obviously gotten in a couple times for like a few series throughout first and second year, but it wasn't even close to like getting into a rhythm like you would in like third year. But
yeah, so third year, first year starting, I can personally vouch that you had a good season. Probably stole a lot of tackles away from me, but it's all
we were
all
always
good.
battling.
It's all good. If anyone's gonna steal them from me, I want it to be you.
Yeah.
So then that goes into third year. I can't remember. Were you? Did you get All-Star or anything that year?
No. So that was like I never wanted to like shape my season around being an all-star or anything, but I don't know. People would be lying if you said that it didn't affect you, like not getting that recognition. Like I was obviously a little bummed because I'd I'd finished like top. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I'd finished like top somewhere in tackles, and I was kind of expecting it, but it was like after not getting that recognition, that was like one of the first things in university, like in terms of adversity, that made me like work so much harder.
It's a little fuel for your
And it
fire.
honestly seemed, it seemed like from that point that I didn't get All-Star that year, it was like adversity after adversity. And it honestly helped me so much because like it made me learn how to deal with it. And I'll go into it even more. Like in third year, I didn't get my East-West invitation, or I wasn't. Anyway, I was told that,
yeah.
I was basically told that like I wasn't big enough, strong enough, fast enough to ever play at the next level, and especially that I didn't look the part to play at the next level, which I can vouch for. Like I was out of shape. I didn't look the part. I could play football. I just had a natural instinct to play football, but I didn't look like these other guys that were going East West or being drafted. And I was told that straight to my face. And so after third year, after thinking I had a good season, I basically just got like shot right back down. And it took like, man, I was at like a breaking point there, and I was like, I can react to this two ways, like just stop and like accept that, or work insanely hard, try and come back from that and like prove everyone wrong. And that's the mindset I took from it. I went out that off season after not being invited to East West and not getting All-Star. I think I went from like 235 to like 200 pounds and got pretty lean over the off season. Like I trained super hard though. Like it was cardio like I've never done. Like I just took training so much more seriously, and I was just as strong as I was at 230, but I was a lot lighter and I was just more ready to play. And I remember coming into my fourth season just like in one of the best shapes I was, like the best shape I was up to that point. And I just remember having coaches being like, wow, like you took that the right way.
Yeah, like because
They
in that
saw how
scenario,
I
you could kind of
reacted.
go one or two ways with it, right?
Yeah. So I think that was one of the biggest things. And I realized like after I had done that and put myself through that transformation, I was like, I'm not going to let like people tell me I can't do something. and especially at where I am now, like getting told I'll never make it to the next level. Like here I am.
Yeah.
But
so then that was up into your 4th year, right? So you had a huge off season, dropped a bunch of weight, you know, like felt the best that you've ever felt. And then that went into your 4th year, which is, for people that don't know, that's your draft year.
Yeah.
Right. So 4th year season, how did that one go for you guys?
4th year season went, I think we did a bit better than our 3rd year. I can't remember exactly what 4th season was. Didn't
you guys go to the Yates Cup and lose? Or no, was that your 5th year?
That was 5th year.
Okay, 4th year. Oh, that was the one that you guys went to Western and got smoked.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we had. Yeah, it was a fun season. We went further than anyone thought we would that season.
Hell yeah.
I remember coming out in that first game against Western when people thought we were gonna get smacked, and that was like, I think that was the super late one that kept getting delayed, and we didn't play till like 9 p.m. or 9:30.
Dude, that was miserable.
That was insane.
Going to like
double OT.
Yeah, that was when that was the year that I was the strength coach for Guelph. I just remember I freaking stood in the rain with my grandpa, because my grandpa wanted to come watch that Guelph Western game. I remember me and my grandpa stood in the rain for like 4 hours waiting for that game to start, man.
And I remember you or like a couple guys coming in being like, "Hey, lightning hasn't struck. Like, we're getting fired up. 15-minute start. Boom. Scoop of pre-workout. 45 minutes delay."
Yeah.
I remember taking like 6 scoops of pre-workout.
Yeah. Surprised you even survived that.
For the game. I had the biggest crash after that game in the bus home. I just remember being there like after a whole game of football, double OT against Western, coming down from 6 scoops of free. But yeah, getting in the rest of that season, it was a good season. I felt like the shape I was in like allowed me to make a lot more plays like side to side, just in terms of like being a bit lighter. I had a ton of fun that season. Like we made it further than anyone had thought. It didn't end the way we wanted to. We got smacked, but
yeah, that was
a good year.
That was not a good game, but no, I think the biggest thing for me, like obviously the first 3 years I was there on the field playing with you, and then your 4th year I was on the staff as the strength coach, and then I went off on my own and kind of started the Athletes Garage then. So 5th year, I was just a pure fan and alumni. But I think the biggest thing that I noticed with you when you went into that 4th season was like you were always a banger and could come downhill and stick people. But man, the difference that you could just see in speed, like dropping that weight just noticeably, man, you just were fast. So
it helped a lot. And I honestly, like, I have those coaches that told me that to thank for it. Like, that's how I react to stuff, is like just being brutally honest. And like, I always just want to kind of prove people wrong. So it helped me.
Yeah, no, big time.
Tough pill to swallow, but
yeah, definitely. And it takes a level of maturity and everything to kind of see the bigger picture within that. So that was 4th year. Did you so that was your draft year. You had a good year. Did you prove them wrong in terms of kind of how you looked and how you played on the field? Did that actually did that accumulate in you being an all-star that year?
No, again
you get the snub. So
4th year I got snubbed again, which honestly, I swear at that point, like after like being not noticed for an all-star the year before, being told like I was never gonna make it, I had dealt with like some pretty hard truths at that point, that like when that happened I was like, screw it, like this is just another thing to motivate me. Like, it didn't, honestly, I didn't even skip a beat. Like it pissed me off at first, and then I was like, all right, I got to do more.
Yeah,
like I'm not there yet, I got to do more. So I started training even harder. I tried to put on more weight. Coming up to the draft, like I was like, hey, I'm gonna go to this combine, and prove people wrong there, that like I should have been an all-star, I should have been recognized more. And I remember talking to a few teams like after the combine. I had done like decently well. Like I trained, I was just above average in some things and then average in others. Like I didn't shine in certain tests and stuff. Like I didn't have like remarkable numbers, but I did really well in one-on-ones and I played well.
Yeah, I think
And
you
I
were just
remember,
consistent, right? Like your
yeah,
testing and everything was, you were not at the top and you're nowhere near the bottom. You're just kind of consistently,
hmm
well represented in all the tests. And like you said,
yeah,
your biggest advantage has always been like, let's strap up, let's go on the field.
yeah. And I feel like in terms of like my 40-yard dash, like my playing speed is higher in terms of like reads and actually reacting to something as opposed to just straight line speed. And that was noticed in one-on-ones. I remember having one coach come up to me after and he's like we're going to be in touch with you. Like we like what we saw today. But again, I guess that came down to just like I wasn't there yet because I had gone undrafted, which was hard at the time. I mean, I wasn't ever told I was going to be drafted. Like my agent was never like, "Hey, like you had a great chance of being drafted." I had a team call me like right before the draft, being like, "Hey, where do you expect yourself to be drafted?" Which was the weirdest call because I'm like, shouldn't you be telling me that?
Yeah. First overall, obviously.
Yeah, but I didn't apparently give the right answer because they didn't bite on me. But
That's funny.
I should have been like, I think second round, and maybe they would have grabbed me.
Yeah.
They're like, have you heard anything from other teams? And me being an idiot, like, I don't know. But it was the weirdest call, man. I
Yeah,
can't.
that is weird.
I
Okay.
haven't even heard of anyone getting that call. They were like, "Hey, do you like where do you see yourself being drafted?" Yeah, and I was like, "I don't know." They're like, "Okay, like you healthy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm healthy." Like, all right, like keep an eye on the draft tonight. So that was like a false sense of hope. I was like watching. I was like, "Okay, here we go." Like, and anytime that team came up for their pick, I was like,
It's
"Pin," and
me.
it wouldn't be my name.
It's
Yeah,
me.
and then I went undrafted, and that was a tough pill to swallow at first, but honestly, I was excited to have another year at uni. Like it was like, because I had a good fourth year, and I just said to myself, I was like, hey, like someone like in that league or a bunch of teams clearly think you're not ready yet. Like take an entire year to train, have an unreal season, and then see what happens from there. And luck, like with a lot of hard work, obviously, and stuff, but it did happen. Had a good year.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So the
Finally got
chips,
noticed for.
yeah, the chips were certainly stacking up against you in terms of
Mm-hmm.
a couple years you maybe felt like you got snubbed on the All-Star. You didn't get invited to the East-West Bowl. You went undrafted to the draft. You come back into your fifth year. The thing, listening to you kind of tell your story, the thing I think is most meaningful through all of this is instead of saying, oh, woe is me or whatever, you're just saying like, you're finding a positive light through all of that, and you're trying to say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
clearly there is some underlying reason for all of this, and
Yeah.
instead of me just thinking, hey, this is people picking on me or people not liking me or whatever kind of bullshit narrative most people would try and create in that scenario, you're looking within and you're kind of saying, okay, looking across from me at the man in the mirror, like, what do I have to fix? What am
Oh yeah.
I going to work on to actually get to that next level? So you go in
Well,
your
I was
fifth
given every
year.
reason to like just shut it down.
Yeah.
Honestly, at points, I was like, maybe you. In my head, at some points, I'm not gonna lie, it was like maybe that coach was right. Like maybe
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make it. And then the other part of me was like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like,
So
show up.
just pure stubbornness is kind of
Yeah.
what kind of kept you moving through that persistence, that stubbornness is kind of what kind of
Mm-hmm.
pulled you out of some of those challenging times. So fifth year
Yep.
happens, you have a huge year, probably your best year at Guelph, would you say?
Oh, for sure.
In
Yeah.
terms of your own individual performance, you guys went that year and lost in the Yates Cup, right?
And the team, man, I had so much fun that year. Like just in terms of like with that entire team, like we had obviously been grinding together with a bunch of those guys for like the past 3 years, trying to come back after that Yates Cup win. Like we were grinding to get back to be in that team. Man, we had so much fun in that 5th year. Like, just being in so many tight games, especially the way we made it like that. That was one of the best moments. That Yates Cup was amazing to win, but that fifth year season, like we just had so many wins that were just team wins that
Mm-hmm.
it was so much fun. And like I feel like that attributed to me playing well. Like I loved playing with those guys. Like I wanted to make plays for them. And everyone just kept doing their part and making like insane plays. Like against Ottawa when we were back and forth trying to get to the Yates Cup, and then Bresh comes down with that catch. Like I still have a picture of like me like losing my mind. I was like almost crying. I was like, this is insane. Like this, it was so fun.
Yeah, it was just like I don't know. It just like again that year was the first year since 2012 that I wasn't directly involved with Griffin football, either as a player or coach or whatever. And that was the first year that I wasn't a part of things. And just from an outsider's looking in perspective, it seemed like from your 4th year to your 5th year, just like something changed within the team where it seemed like guys were having fun again.
Oh, it was fun. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like I remember that year as just being so fun. Like
Yeah.
practice was fun. Like each game, like we would just have fun on the field, and that's the way like we were too. Like
Well, yeah,
when
well,
we were
like,
playing, like
yeah, my years 1 through 4, and so the first couple years of your career, yeah, that's the atmosphere and the culture that kind of we had. Like everything was just fun. You know, we
yeah,
competed hard, we worked hard. Don't get us wrong, but it was a lot of fun. And then, yeah, my 5th
yeah,
year and the year that I was coaching is something and I can't put my finger on it, obviously, but something changed there where it just seemed, and I don't know if maybe it was the pressure of trying to live up to that expectation of, okay, we won the Yates in 2015. What are we going to do now? I don't know if maybe it was the pressure of that or whatever, but yeah, something had changed there. And it just seemed like in your 5th year, so what was that, 2017? 2017?
2017, yeah.
20,
No, 2018,
2018,
2018,
2018. It just seems
2018.
like, yeah, you guys were able to find that again.
Yeah,
So you guys will kind of fast forward to that a little bit because I want to kind of get into that next chapter of your football life. So, you know,
yep,
you guys ended up losing in the Yates.
yeah.
Did you finally get that outside validation that you're looking for in the All-Star nod?
I did. Yeah,
Totally loaded question because I know the answer, but
yeah,
yeah. So you were finally recognized as an OUA All-Star
yeah,
and All Canadian.
yeah. I was an
First,
All Canadian as
second.
well that year. I was second team All Canadian, first team OUA All
There you
Star.
go. So, I mean,
Yep.
finally, I mean, like you said, like along the whole path, you were never really doing it for any like external validation, but to feel like you
No, it's not
got
what you do
subbed
it
a couple
for. Like it,
times
yeah.
to finally,
Man, when I got that validation, it's obviously like it's a very big accomplishment, and it's just that internal like how much work like you personally put in training that just like gets recognized and everything. But again, that's not why I did
no.
everything. Like it's nice to get that, and obviously I was super pumped about it, and it's sweet. But again, it just a lot of that stuff. I'm not even gonna lie, is like politics in terms of making a name for yourself, like who's noticed, who's talked about. There's a lot of guys under the radar that deserve all stars and stuff, like especially guys that I was playing with in my 4th and 5th years, where I was like, man, that guy deserves an all star. Like, what's going on here? And then you see some other names that are up, and you question it, but it's
Yeah,
got a lot to do with politics.
like you said, I remember after my 4th year, like our Guelph coaches kind of like came up to me and they're just like, hey, so you know we just wanted to let you know, like we did the All-Star voting yesterday, and you and I can't remember who it was were tied for second team like All-Star for Sam, but we like the coaches group decided to give it to the other guy just because he was more of a Sam linebacker in terms of in coverage. Although it's like you had better stats and better production and played for a better team, but the other guy, he kind of like covered better more as a Sam, so he got the nod on the tie, and you're just kind of like, okay, yeah, I guess. And I mean, probably
Yeah,
they're the way that OUA probably was at that time too. They're like, yo, if Newton and Rush are getting it too, we're not giving all 3 of their linebackers. Okay, cut the scrub,
Yeah.
cut the scrub. So, but like you say, there's a lot of things that factor into those decisions, and it's not purely just performance. And you can hum and haw over that stuff, but at the end of the day, like, who gives a shit? That's not why you do
When
it.
it comes down to it, like, could I tell you who was an all-star last year? No.
No
one probably knows I am either. Like, it doesn't mean.
No.
It's
and
that personal, like, to have, like, the little plaque in my room. It's cool, like, that I can know, but, like, other people aren't looking down on you if you're not an all-star.
No,
like, it's all how you prove yourself on the field. Like, it's not,
yeah,
doesn't mean a lot.
And as an athlete, like, when you do get those kind of awards, like I was an OUA all-star my first year dressing for special teams, like, it's cool for a second. It honestly, like, when you are when you're an athlete, you're always striving and driving for more. So you get that, hey, here's your all-star plaque. You're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, awesome. I guess I worked hard this season and it paid off. Hanged on the wall. And then you're straight to okay, what's next?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So
I'm saying it feels nice to get it at first, but it's like you can't just be like, oh, I'm an all-star. I'm sweet now.
Roll out the red carpet. Daddy's here.
Yeah.
Certainly not. So finally get that monkey off your back. Obviously you're a free agent at this point. You end up getting signed by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. You go in to camp as a rookie and make that transition from university athlete to hopefully making a professional roster. So how was that experience as going into that transition, and, walk us through pretty much that point in time to kind of where you are now?
So yeah, I signed with them like as soon as my season ended in 5th year. So I knew I was going to be with them, and just tried to train super hard, get myself ready. And part of me was always just like, you need to put on weight. You need to put on weight because these guys are massive.
I mean, like, let's be honest. At that point, you did. I remember, like, after you signed, you showed up to the gym the first day at, like, I don't know.
Oh man, I was light when I showed up to your gym.
I don't want to say it on air, but it might have read 189 pounds on the scale. Who knows?
Yeah.
It might have.
We'll go with 190.
Yeah, we'll go with 190. So yeah, you show up to pretty much like 2 weeks after the season ended and signing with the Cats. You show up at the gym. You weighed under 190 pounds. It was 189. I do remember. We're throwing you under the bus, buddy. It's happening.
It was.
And so yeah, obviously, sizes and everything. But when you're maybe an undrafted guy who at this point is kind of at the outside looking in, and you're going to go and compete with the pros, size was a big part of that. So throughout the off season, like, again, I can attest, you worked your butt off, you trained hard, you got crazy strong, you got crazy fast, and then you went into camp at about what, just shy of 210?
Like just shy of 210. Yeah. I think I weighed in. I remember I was like 208, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, because I think it was 208 because I remember, you weighed 189. And if you would have went in at 209, that would have been 20 pounds we put on that off season. I remember you're just shy of that because our goal was 20 to put on 20 pounds. And I remember we were just shy of it. But so you go through that experience, going through camp, obviously a pretty big jump going from the university level to now playing and practicing at the pros. What were some of like the big eye-opening things for you when you got there?
Speed. Like, oh my God, speed. I remember I had a little mini camp in Buffalo before I actually went to training camp, which was sweet because it got a lot of the nerves out. Go lay down. It got a lot of the nerves out. Like in April, we had a mini camp in Buffalo, and it was just all the PR guys and like free agents that they had just picked up were to come, and rookies. So we met in Buffalo for like this little 2-day camp. It was a day of meetings, so it kind of introduced the playbook to like the bare minimum, but just like the base concepts and stuff. The lingo that they use, so we're not out to lunch in camps. There's kind of that thing. And then we had 1 day on field of like one-on-one, skelly, bunch of drills. And that was really good for the nerves because you got to meet a lot of the coaches before actually going into camp with all these vets and everything. You got to meet a few guys before actually going into camps. When you got into camp, you like had a couple guys from that thing that you're like, oh, what's up, buddy? You know, just going in, like not knowing anyone. My roommate in Buffalo ended up being my roommate in camp, Chris Fry. So we built like a good relationship in Buffalo, and then we're roommates. And I think that was like the biggest thing, was just trying to kind of like place yourself into camp when you're amongst all these like random guys again. And it's like trying to find a place. And it was nice to have Newts and Soto there. But yeah, and then getting into actual main camp, I remember like our first practice, it was just like speed. Like people are so fast, man. Like, and the size at which they can move is insane. Like you're just like,
yeah. And I mean, fortunately with you guys, all being in Hamilton, I was able to, on days that I'd come watch you guys practice. And, you know, obviously for me, there's a lot of fun of seeing some of my best friends and guys that have trained with me doing what they love on the field. Like that's my favorite thing, is seeing you guys have fun and doing what you love. But fuck yeah, sometimes my jaw's on the floor when I'm watching those practices, because man, it's like a 70% like period or whatever, and still the speed and the precision, and like I just love watching the corners, and like their foot and handwork is like, it's perfect. It's
that's
magical
what it comes down
to watch.
Like a lot of these guys are always doing like such little fundamental stuff. Like you'll see them, like everyone's always working on their craft. Like even when we're not practicing, it's like little things. Like there'll be in like a locker room, you see some guy like doing like a little lead to air, like hand movement or something with his feet. Like the way people prep for practice, in terms of like each person has like their own specific warm up in terms of like getting their feet ready or their hands. It's cool to just see everyone's like certain aspect and like approach to training and getting yourself ready, how like everyone's at that pro level. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And it's awesome too. Like, you know, for me, I'm just trying to observe lots of things when I go and watch those practices. But some of the things that I would see is like, you know, you'd see a guy who, you know, I'm a CFL fan. So you see a player who, you know, has been in the league for 8 years or 6 years or something like that, like an established veteran. And you see him do a little thing in a drill, and a coach will say something to him. And this is like a grown man, like I said, been playing in the league for 6 years and whatever. And he's waiting for water, standing at the back of the line. And he's like visually or mentally kind of going through the steps like that coach just said. And it's just like, man, like that is so cool to see. Cause you know, I do a lot of coaching in like minor football. So I'll have a kid who, you know, he's been playing football for 2 months, and I tell him something and he's just like, yeah, whatever, coach, you're stupid. And they don't listen. And obviously that kid's never going to achieve anything because they don't listen at all. Right. But to see someone who's, you know, 30 and still so dedicated to all the little things, that he's still thinking about what his coach said, he's going through it mentally while he waits for water. It's just like, yeah, that is the level of
what it makes them.
That's what, I was just going to say, that's what being a pro is. It's you're a pro in everything. You're a pro in how you treat your body, how you feel your body, how you rest, how you mentally prepare, and that's the thing that I love seeing, is because those guys that have been there, they're fucking pros, and they're there because they don't cut corners in anything that impacts their performance on the field. Like, I mean,
man, like you said, like in terms of treating yourself, that was another big thing I noticed. Because you remember in uni when we'd be caught up for so many hours at the stadium. As soon as you were done practice, you could not wait to just go home. Like you wanted to just go home. You've been there for so long, you wanted to go home. But these guys, I noticed, like as we'd finish practice, or even before practice, like before meetings, people are in the stadium at like, our workday doesn't start till 9, but they're in there at 7. They're hot tubbing, they're stretching in the hot tub, they're getting treatment before practice. And then even the guys, as soon as we finish practice, they go right into the weight room and do like small stuff like to cool down or like treat. They're always working on their body because it's their ticket for like their money. But I had just started to realize that like when I had gotten there, because I had never been that good at treating my body well. Like, to be honest, like I would like finish practice and then go lay down, which is the worst thing you could do. But I was just lazy.
Well, when you're 17, 18, 19, like, Yeah, you can do pretty much whatever the hell you want, right? But then every year you get older, you just have to kind of match that in how you like kind of level up your approach, because the older your body gets, the less it can handle. So
Yeah.
that's when all those little things become vitally important and really become the difference makers. So so that was last year
Yep.
with the Cats. You kind
The
of,
rocky year. It was
yeah,
a rocky year.
you kind of had some ups and downs.
Yeah, I really got to learn the business of CFL that year. It's the way it happened. I mean, I loved the coaches there. It sucked to be cut. It was brutal. Like, I remember it was my second. I'd made it through camp, made the team, played the very first game because I ended up being a PR guy. I made the team on PR. Someone got hurt first week, so I ended up actually drafting and playing in specials against Saskatchewan. And then next week comes around, did a week of practice, and then come Friday, as I was leaving the stadium, I get a call to come back, and they had to let me go because the way roster goes, like there's a certain amount of Canadians to Americans you can keep on a roster. Someone's got to go. Unfortunately, it was me. I was one of the bubble guys that year, just being in my rookie year. It was a tough one, but again, it was just one of those things that I'd been through in university.
I was just going to say,
like,
you've
you're not there yet.
Unfortunately, you've kind of had lots of, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, depends which way you want to look at it.
I'd say fortunately.
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly. I was going to say, knowing the way you've approached this, like you looked at that as a fortunate thing, whereas, you've had that experience of, having to go through challenging times before, and every time it's almost like you've developed this recipe. Okay. Adversity, there's some sort of obstacle, something's happened. Okay. Now, instead of just being upset or bitching about it, I'm going to say, okay, what can I control? What are the things that I can change about me to make sure that this doesn't happen again? So, knowing that that's kind of the recipe that you follow for yourself through adverse times, like how did you handle that now at the pro level? So they've kind of
that was like a completely different time. It was weird because I'd been done university, so I wasn't in university anymore, and it was like I was not living on my own. I was living with Newt, but I had an apartment to pay for. Didn't have a job basically once I got cut, so there's no income, and it was just a very weird time. It was different than what I dealt with in university because I was stuff where it's like, hey, you're still playing football, you're still in university, you still have stuff that you're doing. When I got cut, I was like, what am I doing? And I had been told by like my agent and a couple coaches when I did get released, it was like, listen, like this is a roster move. We hate doing this to people. We had to, but like stay training. And that's what kept me going. They were like, stay training. We don't know if it's for sure, but stay training. Like we might call you back. So I did. I trained for a while. After 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, I needed some money. So I got a job at a restaurant. I was serving. I was worked there for 2 days. I was serving for 2 days. I left my second shift, and I had 8 calls from agents. And he's like, call me ASAP. I was like, okay. So call him. He goes, listen, Hamilton wants you back. I was like, done.
Yeah.
I'm like, when? He's like, tomorrow. I was like, okay. I'm driving home to grab my cleats. I literally had my bag that I had packed from Hamilton, like in the same spot in my garage. Just picked up the bag, went back to my house, and went to the stadium the next morning with Newt back to Hamilton. And I called work and told them like, hey, I gotta quit.
Yeah.
And it was after 2 days, so they weren't too pumped. But yeah, I'd headed back there, and for it to all happen again a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that was back up on the active roster for a couple weeks. Played in a few.
Yeah, I was back on active. Played a couple games.
And then the cycle repeats.
Roster change. Another roster change, but that was a fairly quick one. That was like I had gotten released, and then it was another 2 weeks later after that, or 3 weeks, they called me back to come back for the rest of the season, and then we went on a Grey Cup run, so it was pretty sweet.
Yeah. So do you remember what week it was when you finally got picked back up again? Is this like there wasn't a lot left in the season. There was like 2-3 weeks left.
There was 2 weeks left of regular season
Yeah,
because
that's
I
what I
had got
thought.
brought back. I didn't play the week that I got brought back because I got brought back like midweek. I ended up watching that game from the sideline, and then the next week I played against Toronto, and I actually played, and I did pretty well. Actually, that was probably my best game of the year. I think I played 6 games,
Yeah. And
and that was
then
the final game of the
were
season.
you on the active roster for the playoffs for the Grey Cup run, or were you back on PR for
No,
that?
I was back on PR for the rest of the playoff run.
Okay.
I didn't play in those games, but it was a cool experience. I mean, just being a part of that whole Grey Cup run, being on the sidelines for it, doing like all the media stuff leading up to it. It was like a super cool year to just kind of be introduced into the CFL. And honestly, like as rocky as it was, I think it again, like it taught me so much. Like I know the business now. I know it's cutthroat. Like I know
Yeah.
the way that it goes. I got to see the great parts of it. I got to see a lot of like leadership going into the Grey Cup and like terms of how these players deal with each other and deal with like a playoff scenario and how seriously everyone takes it. And I know I learned a lot. Like how crazy the season was on it. Like it helped me out a lot.
So a lot of ups and downs to the rookie year, but obviously
Mm-hmm.
with the way that you're looking at things is a lot of really cool learning opportunities. Yeah, some of them were maybe scarier than the others when that the reality of real life and being an adult and having to pay for shit, and when that
Yeah.
strikes that first time, you have that little fear set in, but like always, you just figure it out, right? You just I'll
Yeah.
go and get a serving job. Oh, they want me back. Well, I'll quit my serving job and
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back and play, and
Yeah.
I'll get cut again. It's like, but that's the thing, man. That's that trial by fire, but that's you kind of paying your dues to earn your ticket in there, and now you're
Mm-hmm.
going into your second season, and who the hell knows what's going to go on with that, the coronavirus.
Who
And
knows, man?
regularly, what is it? It's April 30th. So basically, when I mapped out the entire off season for you guys and how we were going to kind of structure training and everything, like our training was
This
about
next
to
week would have been.
our training was about to wrap up last Friday. Like,
Mm,
or sorry, next Friday on the 8th was like kind of where I based all your training off, because normally you guys would leave for camp around the 15th. So
yeah.
right now it's probably, I can imagine, a challenging spot for you to be in, because you kind of have this up and down rookie year where you had some really cool opportunities and some great successes, but you also had some spots where things were maybe a little uncertain and you're off on your own. And now you're going into the second year. It's a big year for you. You have this opportunity to prove yourself, prove that you belong there. And this virus comes in and kind of turns things upside down on its head. Like, what are you doing right now to make the most of this time and this opportunity? Because again, it's another piece of adversity in the story of you. So what are you doing to make sure that when this stuff kind of ends, you're going to be able to put your best foot forward and make sure you can earn that spot again on year 2?
It's nerve wracking. I mean, especially with the way that the league goes, it's tough. All I can do at this point, all I can do at this point, man, is just train. It's like I have all the time in the world. There's no excuse, and I'm trying to find those little things that I always wanted to work on that I didn't have the time to work on and do now. Like I was actually excited to go into camp this year and show that I could long snap. I feel like that's a good tool for me to have.
Big time.
So I've been working on that a ton. Like we have all the time in the world, so I've been long snapping, so that when I do get that shot, it'll help me out. But yeah, again, I just keep training, and because like you have the time, and I'm trying to diet well since you're not going out like drinking all the time. Um, you're not eating out on bad food all the time. It's like you try and kind of manage what you're eating and getting yourself in the best shape possible for when the season's going to start. Because I don't know when it's going to start. We keep getting delayed start dates, but
Yeah.
I
Or
know I'm going to be
if,
ready
right?
for when that time comes. Yeah, if
If, right. And
I just
then,
know I'll, yeah,
yeah, and that's the thing that's crazy, man. Like you said, you could get caught up in all this and worry about all the stuff that could happen, right? The CFL drafts tonight. If
yeah,
this season doesn't happen, next
mhm.
year, if you're to go into camp for year 3, now there's going to be the
Two
kids that
sets
are
of
drafted this
draft.
year. There's going to be
Yeah.
the kids that are drafted next year, and there's going to be you guys. And like you said,
Hmm.
you could get super overwhelmed with all the uncertainty through all that, but that's completely unproductive. Like, what is worrying about that stuff or worrying about all these things that are out of your control? What's the sense in that? So I think what
Yeah.
you're doing right now is spot on. And I think through you telling your story, there's a lot of really good examples of like when there's uncertain times and there's a fork in the road, like don't worry about it. Figure out what
Yeah.
is in
You
your
don't pay attention to
control.
uncontrollable factors. Like there's nothing you can do about it. You just gotta control what you can control. Like
Yeah. And
I can't control the desire. Like
it's that age old saying, but man, like the simplicity of it, that is the secret. It's just control the shit that you
mhm.
can control and do what you can.
There's literally nothing you can do about it. Like I can't change the start date. All I can do is try and better myself when that start date comes that I'm ready. And I'm not just sitting on my couch waiting for the season to start and then I'm a lump. Like
Yeah,
I'm gonna be
exactly.
ready, and
Well, and then
when
at
I
the
look
end of the
back
day,
on it, it's gonna be like you did everything you could possibly do. And I have no regret
and that's
of
what
it,
I was
right?
just going to say is like, cause there's no guarantees in this business that you're trying to establish yourself in. And at the end of
Yeah.
the day, if things don't work out for you, you will be all
Mhm.
right because you can say, I did everything I could. And
For sure.
I either wasn't good enough or the circumstances weren't in my favor, but you will always know that, hey, I did everything that was in my power. And that's what makes things easier when you transition to that next chapter of life. When you can
Yeah.
do that without looking back and having regrets, it makes it so much easier.
100%.
Well, what are I guess as we're starting to wrap things up here, like, do you have any things you would say to other kind of athletes, maybe like say like high school athletes that are kind of coming up through this process? Like, do you have any advice for those guys? What are some of the mistakes you made or things that you think that they would be able to do that would help them out?
High school athletes, like I highlighted earlier, I think honestly, like just don't become starstruck like I was with your first visit. Like maybe that's the school you are gonna end up choosing, but if you go on your other visits and stuff, like it'll just reassure you that that's the school that you want to go to. I think that was the biggest thing that I learned in high school when I was going through that recruiting process to university was just do your visits, talk to coaches, like feel everything out, and then you'll really find out like where's home for you. Like for me, it just set in when I went on my one visit to Guelph. Like I just knew that was the place I wanted to go to. But I think that's the biggest thing in the whole recruiting process to do with football that I learned from high school for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, and like I said, I think for anybody that listens to this, I think just hearing about how Luke kind of handled all the ups and downs through his career and how he kind of stayed focused and looked inside through those challenges. I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learned there, and it is not easy to do. I want like the way you kind of talked about things, you make it sound easy, but it's not. And I don't want people to think that it was easy for you because I can tell you I was there. It wasn't easy for you to kind of navigate
No.
those things, but you knew that on the other side of that there was something greater that was going to come of it, and you were able to withstand all that.
Oh
So
man, like that one scenario where I was told like I was never gonna make it, like I just didn't look the part or like anything. I remember going to my truck in the parking lot and sitting in my truck for like 20 minutes, like not doing anything. And like I had like broken down, like I was like, man, like you just worked. Like you put in like 3 years of university work, all high school, moved schools, like everything for football. You've done so much, and just for that dream to just be like, yeah, it's not gonna happen for you. Like you just sit there and you're like, what? Like
yeah.
what do you mean? And then it was like tough. Like I had battled like with that for a bit. Like even when I was training, like that was always in the back of my head. Like I used that was like my biggest turning point, I think, in my university career.
Yeah.
in
No, and
football career, but it's just like you use that, like you just use it to fuel you. Like when you wake up and you don't want to train, you're like, yeah, that's what that person probably thinks of you.
yeah,
And then
yeah, turn the
go
negative
train.
into a positive.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, is there any parting wisdom, or you've shared enough?
Parting was no, I think I've said everything that's been like a big turning point in my career, and kind of like the main things that I use to fuel me, like when I'm training.
That's awesome.
I think
Well,
that's one of the biggest things nowadays is like just that dealing with adversity in the right way. I feel like a lot of people are kind of I feel like people nowadays are brought up a little differently in terms of like pointing fingers as opposed to using thumbs. Like,
yeah,
like I feel like you just got to use thumbs more. Yeah.
yeah, you got to point that thumb right back at yourself and figure out
Yeah.
what you're doing before you start going to point your finger at the world and blame other people for your problems. Well,
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today. Like, you know, I always like doing this stuff because I know you guys as friends and as people, but it's always cool just to do stuff like this because I'm learning
For
stuff.
sure.
I've been along, ever since you came to Guelph. I've been along for that journey with you, and there's a lot of stuff that maybe I even learned through this conversation that I didn't maybe know you were struggling with, or maybe I didn't understand the depth of it. So I really appreciate you kind of talking us through that and sharing those experiences, because I think for other people there's going to be a ton of value in that. So I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, my pleasure. All right, hang on for a second. I'm going to end the recording. I don't want to chat for you. Okay?